Welcome back to Visions and Voices, everybody. I'm your host, John Stewart, partner here at Armanino. And with me is, I don't know, can I say my favorite colleague? No one's really, is it going out to the interweb? Oh, wait, still my favorite colleague, the illustrious Dean Quiambao. Obviously, Chief Relationship Builder. You don't even need an introduction, but we're going to do one, all right? But you don't need one. So, Chief Relationship Builder, runs our Northern California geo and our technology industry. Thank you for joining today. I'll let you do the rest of your intro, but I'm excited to get into our conversation.
I'm excited to be here, John. I'm not going to lie. I've been watching this from afar going, I'm going to be a part of what is going on here. This is very exciting. I love it. I think you guys are putting out great content for everyone. So I'm really excited to be here. Only thing I would add is that I'm 24 years at Armanino. When I first started here, we had 80 people.
That's crazy.
Two little offices in the Bay Area.
That's crazy.
And now we're
where we are now.
Yeah, it's wild. It's been a great ride, but it's very helpful to not only be part of a rocket ship, right? But then also be able to advise and help people who are on their own rocket ship.
Yeah, I love that, right? Because we're building the plane as we're flying it, as we like to say here, and which I think keeps us on the edge of innovation, right? And particularly talking tech industry today, that's all about innovation. So why don't let's just jump right into it. Let's jump right into it. I want to talk about, I know you work with a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of technology entrepreneurs, given the Northern California focus. So from your perspective, let's talk tech as a wealth engine. This is obviously something we've seen for more than a decade or two, but what makes the tech industry so unique when it comes to wealth creation? Tell it to everybody who's maybe...
That's so funny. This is like Gold Rush 2.0, 3.0.
Yeah,
4.0. It's the next gold rush every single time. And how lucky are we? I'm dialing in today from the Silicon Valley, and a lot of times this is the epicenter, and it happens right here. It's a mindset. It is what we do. And I think the big thing that you have to take when you think about technology and the wealth engine and accumulating wealth, I think a good place to think about is actually the book, The Power Law by Sebastian Mallaby.
Okay.
And that is actually the story of venture capital. It's actually, what happens there. But if
like the early days of it, or like just how
the early days.
Oh, I like that.
Like how it started.
Like, that's like early 80s, late 70s kind of thing, right? Around that time frame?
That's right. Yeah. And the names that they're dropping in there are now the titans.
Right.
Silicon Valley. And it is amazing. But what you hear there and what you always have to take away, it's not the fact, okay, yes, it is very exciting when you get to drop in $15,000 into a company and it becomes worth $40 million.
Is it that easy to do?
Yeah, right. No. I don't know.
No.
But this is what so many people miss, John, and this is the key part here. Is that the wealth engine isn't the fact of like, oh yeah, I started this company or I did something. The wealth engine is built because we're talking about business disruption. We're talking about a new business model, right? And when that happens, the returns are tremendous because you're creating new categories that never even existed, new ways to do business. And the returns are...
Like Uber wasn't a thing, but it is now, and it has been for a while, but it wasn't. Right.
That's right. Like, the little thing in your pocket, that iPhone, right? And all the things that come with it, and every company that's been built off of it, and just all of that, that ecosystem. But I think the big thing about technology and why it is such a wealth engine is because it all goes back to business disruption and a new business model.
Yeah, and I love it. And in Silicon Valley's kind of been the epicenter of that for a long time. For good reasons.
We're very, very lucky.
Book, you'll figure it out. But yeah, because they were all planted there. That's where they kind of settled shop, right?
And I guess I would just say that, like, the model there, I referenced the book, The Power Law. The model is, in so many businesses, right, John? It's like, hey, hitting singles is good. Hitting doubles is good. In the Valley, no, we shoot for grand slam.
Let's go big or go home. Yeah, it's not...
Because you have to have the grand slams because so many things are going to fail. Actually, we're planning that 95 out of 100 fail. But the 5 grand slams or the 1 grand slam and the triple and the double and the 2 singles more than make up for everything else.
Right. That's what paves the way. And
That's
that's
right.
and you're right. That's a good way of putting it. That's the model there that works. That's what tech venturing is, right? It's about the grand slams. It's not about singles and doubles. That's a different market if that's what you want. Right.
Yeah, it's a different market. Incremental growth, that's not this.
Yeah, no, that's not what they're looking for here. That's not why you place all that bets early like that. No, I love that. Okay. So, just talking lessons from the field, you've worked with many successful tech founders as we talked about. What are some of the smartest moves you've seen them make, or maybe the biggest mistakes? Could be financial, could be operational, could be anything, to be honest. But just curious to just share with people kind of lessons learned.
Well, my number one lesson learned is that you are so focused working on the business.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that you said, right, John? It's just that easy, right, Dean?
Yeah, it's just that easy. I just show up, right? I just put money in. No.
Yeah, most are just so hyper focused. Now, I would say that most are brilliant, right? They really could have any job they want, and they really actually feel like they could do any job. They just don't have time. But they do spend a lot of time working on the business, working in the business. That until something happens, they don't really put the time and energy into like, oh my gosh, what is my wealth accumulation looking like, right?
Yeah, it's not like you go around looking at it as a ticker every day and like, oh, here's where it's at. Like that's not how it works, right?
Exactly. And we all know that private valuations can go up and down like a roller coaster. Even worse than that, much
Paper
worse
rich,
than
right?
that.
Paper rich. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would just say that, you always have to be ready. I will tell you a story in a little bit about a guy that I knew, and he really didn't know what was going to happen. Then he got a unexpected phone call. So definitely
Okay.
gotta be prepared.
I want to hear this story, Dean. So let's go into that. So let's talk about how many founders go from being paper rich, right, to suddenly managing real significant wealth, whether it's IPO acquisition or secondary sale, what it is. What are some of those biggest financial blind spots that they face? I have a feeling I'm setting you up here. Yeah, let me know. What have you seen?
No,
Here.
John. So I'm gonna tell you a story, and it's all public now. This is all Googleable. I love that word.
Yeah, that's a good word.
So one of our partners and I went to go visit this small company, and I think it was like Santa Clara or Mountain View.
Okay.
And we meet with the founder, and I mean, this was a small company, John. Like, whatever you think is small, it was smaller than that. Okay,
Two guys and a dog. Got it.
it was really small.
Yeah.
And this founder, he was like, yeah, I'm kind of at a crossroad. Like, I've got to figure out what am I gonna do next. He's like, am I gonna raise more money? Am I going to, try to make this go? What's my next play here?
Mm-hmm.
And he says, but one thing I do know that I want is, he says, I want to make sure that my financial house is in order.
It's a good way to think about it. I think sometimes we don't get that question, so that's good.
Yeah, right. And he was like, this is my baby, Dean. This company is my baby. So I want to make sure that the financial house, my baby, is in order. And so Ryan and I are like, okay, what are you thinking of? And he goes, I don't know. He's like, should I get an audit? Maybe I need to have my books audited, and just so that I know that everything's right. We've never really done that before.
Right. Make sure that house is in order. Right.
Yeah. So we're like, okay, well, what are you thinking? He goes, well, he's like, what if we went back a couple periods and we got audited, and you just cleaned up my books and make sure they're all good, so that whether I want to raise money, whatever happens, at least I know my numbers are good.
Right. Because he's going to be asked that in due diligence in any of those processes. Right. So no
matter what.
Right. He's going to have to clean them up. Got it. Okay.
So we're like, okay. And, credit to Ryan. Ryan was able to, get him caught up and issue a couple years worth of financial statements. I think he issued like 3 different periods, caught him up. So back in time, and then issued like 3 financial statements over the next progressive 18 months.
Okay.
And then John, his client, got a phone call, unsolicited.
Really?
And this really cool technology was back then right? In the farming industry. Farming industry. This is not like crazy chips and none of
Right. So
that.
we're
Farming
talking rural
industry.
manufacturing, farming. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. This technology, when they throw a bunch of seeds out there to grow,
Hmm.
this thing would ride along and it would look at the seedlings and tell you, nope, kill the rest. This is the one that's going to live.
Oh,
And you
okay.
would pick that one and let it go.
So it helps you
Right.
from a harvesting standpoint. You know which seeds are healthy enough to produce. Got it. Okay. That makes
Right.
sense.
Or even at least give the best chance to like turn
Right.
into something, right?
Okay. Makes sense.
Unsolicited phone call from John Deere.
No way.
We'd like to acquire your technology.
Out of the blue?
Out of the blue.
He didn't even know they were looking into it. See, love stories like this. That's cool. Okay.
$305 million later.
That's a good number, isn't it? Wow. Wow.
But that happens all the time. I mean, the
Yeah.
reality is, John, is that you probably have a lot. I mean, how many founders have I met where they're like, well, Dean, I started my first company when I was in college and I
Yep.
sold that one for $5 million. And then I did another one and I sold that one for $10 million. Everybody wants to talk about crazy stories. And I started
Yeah, the
off saying,
moonshot,
hey,
but it starts with other shots first. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. There's the 5 million, the 10 million, the 20 million, right?
Ooh, the
And you got
failure.
some investors,
Yeah.
you got other people in there with you, so you're not taking home all the take, right? We
Right.
get it. But that is kind of that's happening all the time. And I think my number one lesson that I would like to tell anybody who's
Yeah.
listening
Yeah.
is make sure your financial house is in order on your biggest baby. If that's your wealth engine, make sure that financial house is in order so that you get to realize as much of that $305 million as possible. We like to call that being due diligence ready no matter what.
I love that.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, because if he hadn't, obviously maybe Deere still buys it, but maybe they've got to invest in the due diligence. Maybe they find some things they don't like. Maybe that number comes down,
There you
right?
go. There you go.
But
So, what I would tell everyone is find the right partner for your business and your baby at the right stage. Because, lots of people you can choose from. Lots, lots. Find the right person at the right stage who's going to hold your hand, who's going to help you be successful, right? Because you could overshoot, John. You could easily hire somebody who just doesn't really care. You're not the right fit today. You could hire someone that it's your buddy, maybe it was your parents' CPA, and they're like, hey, I just do my books and my taxes. And all of a sudden, they're like, hey, I'm way over my skis here. So you really want to find the right partner at the right stage.
and I love that you're saying right partner, right stage, because it's kind of like the Goldilocks syndrome in a lot of ways, right? So you go too big, you're just a number. They're not going to care. You may not even fit their profile at the moment. You go too small, they're not going to have the experience or sophistication to help you with a big acquisition or whatever it is, right? So you got to find that right fit that can scale a little bit with you, if I'm hearing you correctly, right? So and that's the
100%.
important thing it's not just have an advisor, it's have the right advisor.
Amen. The one that cares about you. John, you and I know right now there's lots of people. You need to have your people,
Yeah.
right? Who is your team? Who is your people? That's what everybody wants. That's my person. That's my guy. That's my gal.
Yeah. Yeah. And they get their back and they're going to help you no matter what, just because it's the right thing to do. And that's a hard thing to find sometimes if you're just in a rush or panicked or you've waited too long. Now you got that phone call and you don't
Mhm.
have those people. Now you're rushing to find somebody. And good luck at that process because that's a probability proposition right there. Like you're
Yeah.
just gonna take someone. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's keep talking. First steps after a big exit. I like that. So you've said some advice there on like the first thing, financial house in order. What's some of the first other things they should be thinking about, maybe from a financial strategy standpoint? If you,
Yeah, no, after those big exits, right? I'm a big team guy. I know, John, you're a big team guy,
very
right? I
much so,
like to surround myself with the right people, the right partners, right stage. And I think that, like, hey, everybody does that from a company perspective, but now
right,
you actually have to take a step back, John, and like say, hey, am I doing this on a personal perspective as well, right? Like,
right, right.
who is my legal team? Who is my tax team? Who is helping me with estate planning? Like, let's face it, a
That's a
lot of
big one. I
these
think everybody forgets about, Dean. Like estate planning,
100%.
yeah, particularly if
You
you're in
know,
California, you absolutely need to have a mind on that. Like,
estate planning is no joke. Unfortunately, I mean, the positive thing is this is in tech, people are finding that gold a little earlier in life. sometimes, you just don't know what can happen. Nothing is guaranteed.
Yeah,
So you
and so
want
are the
that.
athletes, right? Like the athletes really
Yeah.
they're playing to 35, but that has to last to 65 or 70 or 80. So it's the same thing. You're getting it early, but what are you going to do with it, man? Be smart with it.
Exactly. And then I would also tell you, right? So estate planning, and then your wealth team, your wealth managers, right? Like, that's not me, but
Yeah, it's
I
not
know
what we do, but
But
you're
we
going to
know a
need one of
lot of
those.
them, and they're brilliant. And
Mhm.
they're the ones that can help you, and maybe with your future investments, and talk about, which we'll talk about concentration versus diversification. Maybe you want to do more private fund investing. Maybe you want to do all of this, and you're gonna have to find again the right people. But I really hope you have that team lined up.
What I like in there is there's a nugget of really good advice. And what you're saying is that, hey, utilize your tax advisor, your business management advisor, whoever you have, to ask them who the right wealth advisor or whoever you're looking for is, because we're all connected usually somehow. We all know people that we worked with that we like and appreciate and know that they're good at what they do. And we're happy to refer those names because we trust them because they're going to take care of our clients. So ask those questions. Ask your advisors. They're going to help you. They're going to help you find that person.
Yeah, I actually have a. I'm not gonna say the names, okay, but I have a CEO here in my phone. I'm not gonna show it to you
Yeah,
because I don't
don't
want you
show
to
it. Don't
see
show. People are going to
it.
zoom in if you do. Yeah.
But I have a CEO right here. I'm reading a text. Blank is a beast, bro. I love her. Thank you, dog.
See, that's what
And that
happens.
and that's the text that I got from one of my CEOs about estate planning, right? Because
That's awesome.
that's what it is.
Yeah, no. So let's talk about that. That's tax strategy for entrepreneurs. Like, if you're not
Yeah.
mind, I know taxes are things that we just have to pay. I get it. But if you're not minding it, you're gonna be paying a lot more than you probably should. What are some of those most effective tax planning recommendations or best practice you give them? Like estate planning, I'm with you. Where else do you go with it when you're talking to someone like this?
John, you're pretty. My hands are sweaty as can be. You're asking me tax questions, and I'm not a tax pro, John.
Where am
So
I?
I don't know about this, but I
Yeah,
think my tax colleagues, our tax colleagues
right.
down
We
the
got a lot of
hall,
them.
would
Yeah.
say QSBS.
Yep.
Better do that. That's like one of the best things
That's like
in the
table
tax
stakes, I
code.
feel. Yeah, it's table stakes.
Yeah, but hey, there's ways to get that wrong. And I think a lot of people do get that wrong. It's one of the best strategic plays in the tax code. You
Mhm.
better get that right, right? QSBS.
Yep.
I think our tax people would also talk to me about a potential 83B election. Don't even ask me all the details there, but I hear them say it in all of
I
these
hear the numbers and
meetings.
letters, but yeah, other people better than us will handle
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Capital gains, right? You're going to have capital gains. You want to make
Yep.
sure that you're falling into the right category there to strategically, put yourself in the best position.
Yeah.
State taxes, right?
Salt. Yep.
Yeah, state taxes are real right now. You just saw the NASDAQ is opening up an office in Dallas, right? You hear about the
Yep.
Texas stock market. I've been interviewed about that thing 3 times already. State taxes are real, and that could be a lot of money. And then, just what are you going to do for maybe some people want to have like set up their own private foundation or have a charitable giving component.
And what are
So,
the
uh,
differences? Because both of those have different tax implications. They're not the same thing. And
there
so
you
you better
go.
have someone who can tell you that.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think everybody comes out with all of these, everybody has the right intent, right?
Hmm.
But you just want to make sure that again, specific to your scenario and your fact pattern, how are you handling all of this?
So I got a quick story on that for QSBS. I want to share it because it's relevant to kind of what we're talking about here, about how this kind of functions and maybe demystifying it for some. Last week, in fact, I was up in your neck of the woods, right? I was with you. And we met with, you know, a billionaire. Let's be honest, it was a billionaire, right? We met the billionaire or that billionaire's wealth management team. And it's a name we're not going to mention, but it's a name everybody knows. And they were asking us, if you recall, right, Dean? They were saying they're having issues with QSBS. They need to figure this out. How can we help them? So this is something that isn't just for the little guys that just came into money. Yes, it is, and it's something you should know, but it affects everybody. And so even the guys that are already out there and have all that, they're still asking questions. They're still trying to find the right advisors. And I thought we had a really good conversation about that.
Killer. That was a killer meeting.
Yeah, no, it was good. So, all right, so let's talk about it because that was a family office and we were meeting with their wealth advisors. Family office or no family office? I know that's my end of the world here, but I'm curious for your perspective on this. When you when you run into a tech founder or you're talking to that guy who all of a sudden comes into 305 million from John Deere, what point do you think, or do you hear them talk about, should you consider setting up a family office using external advisors?
Yeah, I think the case, I think it becomes their just complexity, number one. How much money do they have? How many investments do they have, right? So complexity is a big deal. Some people are just more private than others,
Yeah,
John, right? Some people want to be private, so that could be a factor in their
it's a good
control,
way to maintain your privacy because if it creates a shell for you, yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Control,
Mm-hmm.
those are all. I'm listening to the Let Them book by Mel Robbins, and
Yes,
they
she's
said
fantastic. Yep, she's fantastic.
every human, it's innate that they
Yep.
want to feel in control.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a piece. Some people, it's about legacy and philanthropy, right?
Yep.
Like, hey, I've now that I've done this, like, there's people out there, lots of people out there that are like, what do I want this wealth that I've accumulated? What do I want it to go mean? What do I want it to go do? And
Right.
so there's all of that, and then there's also just the component of family dynamics. Who knows how that all goes?
Yeah, because I mean, maybe you're tech founder who comes into it when you're single, man or woman, you're single, you're not married yet, but then later you are. And maybe later you have kids or other assets.
Yeah,
Family offices to me, there's thousands of different flavors of them,
yeah,
right? There's no one way to do it. So if someone tells you that they don't know what they're talking about. But there's thousands of flavors, and you set it up to the way you want to live your life. And I can't think of many reasons why you wouldn't set one up. It just depends to your point, the complexity you want to put in place. That's it.
John, we should actually take a step back, and it's not just founders.
Yeah.
Today, it is C-suite, it
Yes,
is
it
early
is.
employees. I got
Yeah.
some people out there. I got some friends that were early employees at which is now Meta, and
Yep.
they're much younger than I, and they haven't worked in a long time, John.
Yeah. I mean, they're sitting on 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, all the way up millions of dollars. Guess what? All those, you're probably going to find everybody with some version of a family office because it creates that shell and privacy. It allows you to take advantage of tax structures better. It allows you to manage the wealth the way you want to manage it in a much easier way. It doesn't have to be this big burden. So, yeah, I would agree. I think probably most of them have them or subscribe to one. Yeah.
A conversation that always comes up as well, John, is just this like diversification versus like concentration discussion, right? You have so many shares in your company and the baby.
Yeah.
We talked about that, right? This is my financial baby. This is the financial golden goose. I want to take care of it. And then some people will tell you, all right, we want to de-risk. We want to diversify,
Right.
right?
Okay. Yeah.
That's fine.
That's totally
There's
fine.
that people in that camp, but there's also people in the other camp saying, "Do you really believe in the baby? Do
Yeah.
you really believe in the baby?" Because I will tell you that we all know IPO is a moment in time,
Yeah.
right? So say your company does go public, you believe in your company and the
Hmm.
disruption and the business model and where you're really going. Are you going to take the chips off the table now, or are you really going to grow your enterprise value over time? We talked about it.
Yeah. And
Look
that's
at
a
where
personal
Meta is,
decision. I mean, not everybody there's no right or wrong to that. It's which one you want to do.
right? But like, if you talk about people who have grown the craziest amount of wealth out there, it's because their enterprise value of their financial baby has continued to grow year after year after year,
Yeah.
right? If you look at where Facebook went public to where Meta trades now, that's a big number.
Yeah. That's a big gap.
That's
Tesla, all of
enterprise
them, the
value
same.
over time.
Yeah.
So that is part of the conversation of diversification versus keeping that concentration risk. I know that our friends in wealth management have lots of comments about this, and I would let
Yeah.
them, have all the comments. I would just say that, I have my own friends who say, "Hey, Dean, the people who do pretty good, they believe in that baby and they continue to let
I
that
think
baby."
that's the natural way because I mean, it's a little bit of sunk cost, right? But you put so much time and energy into it. How could you not want to keep it going?
But I'm sure our friends will have lots of comments, and you should have them on the next podcast to
I
talk
think
about
so. Let's
that.
have them talk about it because that's another world that you and I are not as deeply familiar with. But I'm with you on that.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
So founder to investor, I think one thing you popularly see in Silicon Valley is these founders then turn into venture capitalists. Like that's a well-known route.
Do. They
So
do.
how do you see that transition? And I'm curious for maybe some of your subjective comments on this. You've seen I know you know a bunch of them that have made that transition. What does that go for them? How do they do that? What does that look like? And do they shift their approach strategically at all in terms of how they're managing their life and their legacy and their wealth and like how? What have you just noticed?
One motivation, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe they built the company and that was great, and they just realized that, like, oh, you know what I really liked? It's like not the idea, but I liked like building the business, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to have to come up with a new idea anymore. I want to go fund other people's new
And I'll
ideas,
help them get there and I'll get my
and I'll
cake.
help them scale up, and I'll give them my experience that I've learned, and
Yeah.
now I can be an investor in what they're doing, and I can give them my connections and my board members and different people that I've met in my ecosystem, which is part of the magic of the valley here,
Yeah.
right? Is that you're part of this ecosystem, and so has talked to so and talked to here, and you're like, it's just normal, like, oh my gosh, I got a call from that guy on my cell phone. Yeah, totally. Like, yeah, we're buddies. He DMs me on Instagram, like all of that stuff. And that is part of it. So really it becomes, what do you want to do? I guess is really it. Number one, motivation. Number two is going to be maybe you kind of created like a little niche. And now
Yeah.
you're like, I know commerce, I know payments, I know cyber, I know social,
Yeah.
whatever it is. But like maybe you feel like, I love this. My company helped change the world. I want to go help change the world more in this sector. And I have a niche and I want to invest in companies in this niche.
And I think that's a great part for 30. If you're going down that road, that's exactly the right time to be thinking, is my personal house in order? Going back to house in order conversation earlier, that's the moment you should be like, what am I doing personally here? Because if I'm going to go take a bunch of risky bets, right, which is essentially what it is, I mean, you're going to be smart about it, but still risky bets. What what are you doing personally to protect yourself on that? And is that,
John,
do I
you
need
know,
a
you,
family
you
office? What do I need, right?
right? And let's be real here now, right?
Yep.
Maybe you've gone through, you've done it. The IPO, you sold your business, you've
Yeah.
realized a net worth that you never thought you could do. And now you're like, okay, you know what? Maybe I'm going to start my own family office. Maybe I'm going to start my own VC fund. Here's the reality of it. Now you're the GP.
Right. You're the GP. And guess what? There's a lot of other financial implications of being one. And that is absolutely going to affect your personal wealth. So have a strategy, have advisors, know what you're doing.
Maybe you're going to have to interact with LPs,
Yes, you're
right?
gonna have to unless you're using all your own funding. So
Exactly, right? Unless you want to put all of your money in the game.
yeah, yeah.
Right. I don't know if you want to do that either. So it's just different. It's a different focus. It's a way to stay working without, having to do it. It's just different. But that is very, very common. And I think what it's like, we're all of us are on this continuous growth trajectory. We're all learning. We're all trying to get 1% better. And you're allowed to say, oh, wow, I had a really fun time doing this. And now I want to do that.
I think that's one of the reasons, like, and I know you and I are both fans of the All In podcast, right? Those four, you didn't really know their names because of the exits they came out of. You didn't, right? Maybe Chamath a little, but most people had no idea who those four people were. It's everything they did after. And it's everything they did because they wanted to build a legacy. They wanted to lend their expertise. They wanted to help grow companies. They were part of that magic of the valley. I like that. I'm stealing it. They're part of that magic of the valley. And now look, it's their most popular podcast in the world or close to it. And
For one business podcast in the world, yeah.
yeah, and I think part of the reason is they're very approachable, very relatable because they didn't make it because their exit. Yes, that helped them set up what they're doing now, but it's everything they did since that is incredible. And those are
Yeah,
great
no.
stories to hear.
Yeah, that's right. And it is that. And if you want to go back to the wealth engine that we started our very first question of tech as a wealth engine,
Yes.
I actually most appreciate that it can be anyone from anywhere, from any start. You just don't know. There's a grind there. It's not easy. But all of these people from various backgrounds, and you're just like, wow, and they're just really smart.
Yeah, no one handed this to them. They grinded it out.
Yeah, so it's cool. And then to be here in the Bay, to be here in the Valley, and to know that like I do have one degree of separation from like 3 of those guys on that show, which
Yeah,
is wild.
that is wild.
Wild. People are like, Dean, you want to meet Chamath? Like, you know how many times Chamath has come up in a conversation, right? Just being involved. They're like, oh, I used to work with him here, or he's buddies with my
We got
friend
to get him on
there.
this thing. We'll interview him. We'll get him on this thing. I'm sure he'll
Oh,
do
John, you'll graduate, baby. From Dean to Chamath. I'm a no one.
it.
Come
He'll
on.
join us, man. We'll both talk to him. Let's see if we can do it. That'd be awesome. Let's hear his view on this.
Oh, too funny.
That'd be awesome. I mean, I think about it. So that takes you to the other side of this, because I think because we're talking about the journey to get there and then what you do with it since you get it or once you get it. But the other side of that is the philanthropy angle. It's not just about what you're going to do it for yourself. Yeah, obviously that's part of it. We get it. Like that's what we would all think of. But a lot of these tech entrepreneurs or anybody comes into massive wealth real quickly is they want to give back. And I know you and I work with a lot of great experts here that know how to help people do this. And I'm always amazed. And I'll go back to that meeting last week because we sat in that room and had a couple of our experts in that room on the nonprofit side. And I'm always amazed with what they can do. Because it's stuff my background is engineering, right? Yours is in auditing and nothing like we didn't do this. We didn't come up that way. What is your impression of that space? Because I love that we do this for others and help them figure out how to make an impact in the world. To me, that makes me feel good at night when I go to bed. Because like, hey, we're not just helping you manage wealth or figure out your tax structure. We're actually helping you make the world a better place in a way.
I do love that. I firmly believe that too much is given, too much is expected.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in that. And I think that this is how a lot of these folks live their lives, is that they want to leave a legacy, they want to leave an impact, they want to do something greater than themselves, right? Most entrepreneurs that I've talked to readily admit that they almost went broke 10 times. And they've
Yep.
gotten a lot of luck and a lot of wind at their back. And, they've gotten the right breaks or had to come back from something really hard or whatever. And so they all have that humility to want to help and give back. And, whether it's starting a family office or whatever, I think that is a constant theme.
Yeah.
But John, that actually brings me to my question for you. The whole reason I wanted to come on this podcast with you is because when I go out into the valley and I talk to, my community here, if they do think about starting a family office, like when should they think about doing that and why? I mean, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but from your side, like I kind of give you my thoughts on it. What are you saying when folks want to consider it? They're
I like this. We're flipping the script. I like it. I'm going with it. Let's go. Let's go. So what I usually find myself telling clients or clients themselves if they're asking is I think it's a day one mentality either way, right? So whether you're coming into 10 million or 100 million or a billion, I don't know that it really matters. It matters how you go about executing. Like the how will be different, but the what doesn't change. The what is have a family office structure, because my point is that they vary in size and weight and scale and complexity and what they do. And if you start with it, you're able to take advantage of so much more as you grow that wealth, which is assumingly what you're going to want to do. So to me, it's a day one mentality. You should absolutely look on day one. It doesn't have to be some sophisticated thing where you've hired 20 people to manage whatever. No, that's later, or that's for the bigger numbers. But let's say it's the person who came into 20 million. There's a lot you can do with that to protect your own family and legacy, but there's a lot you can do if you want to give back as well. And these structures exist for a reason to help you do that. So I think it's day one. Yeah.
And I would just say it feels like, they also want to continue to build a little bit of legacy, right? Not that they think that the 20 million or the 50 or the whatever is the end all be all. And now we just got to figure it out with what we got. They also are entrepreneurial and, at nature, and they kind of want to say, well, hey, I want to do all this, but I kind of want to go do more.
Yeah, because I think retirement's a myth, right? Retirement's a myth in some regard when you come into this kind of money, because you're going to keep doing something. You want to have fun with it. Maybe it's personally you want to have fun with it, or you want to have fun professionally because you want to switch and do some other things. But you also maybe want to worry about your family legacy. Maybe you do have kids. Maybe you're older. I mean, the most common interactions I'm having are with much older professionals coming into it, and they have families. They have to take care of their parents. Maybe they want to take care of their kids. Maybe they want to hand this down, generational handoff. There's all kinds of things to consider there. So get the right guys to help you, because there's answers for all of that. But if you set it up early enough, you got clear lanes, and then you're protecting your downside risk as well. So I really do think it's a day one mentality, because you probably have ideas right away. and work with the right advisors to help you execute them. And yes, it can be sophisticated. And yes, as it grows, there's more things you can do. And that's the exciting part maybe of that. So have those guys there on day one. So give us a call, text Dean, have him call me, whatever it is.
I think that at the end of the day, I think if we're doing our job,
Yeah.
right, of just being involved in the community and helping people, whether it's the exits, and realistically, those bonds are built way before that, John. They're
Yes.
built in the foxholes of hard
Yep.
times.
Yep.
Right? Metal is born in the times that suck, in the pain, in the suffering. And if we're there for people when things aren't so great, I actually had a CEO tell me that too. You were here for me when it was tough. And now, of course, I want you here with me when things are great.
Yeah, because you got to be with them for all the cycles, because like you said, it is a cycle. So let's talk about that. I mean, we're at an interesting path with the economy right now. IPOs, we're hoping they rebound a lot this year, depending on how things turn. Maybe it's next year, but where do you see that landscape going in the next 5, 10 years? I know you're closer to that part than me, the magic of the valley. What are you hearing people talk about? Where do you think this is going to go? I'm setting you up to prognosticate. Yeah.
I would tell you this. How about this? Right now, this is the topic at every table. Every conversation we're in, we're really talking about three things right now. We are talking about navigating short term with regards to tariffs and austerity and things of the interest rates, some of that stuff. That's short term uncertainty right now, that's real, and every business is dealing with that. Two is the integration of AI into every business. That is a common conversation, no matter what stage, no matter what, everybody's talking about that, no matter what industry. And then number three is the IPO and capital markets. Everybody wants to know how do we do that, and what level of company do we need to be to realize that kind of return. I would tell you that. So number one, companies are talking about it. CFOs are talking about it.
Okay.
C-suite leadership are talking about it.
Yep.
VCs and PEs are talking about it, and they all want it to happen. Right?
Yeah, they want those trains to leave the station. They need them to leave the station. That's how this model works.
Amen.
So, yeah.
And then I would tell you that I was just in New York 2 weeks ago. And you know what all the buyers said? Buy side is ready. We are here. We want product. We want tech. We want to invest in tech. I want to take these dollars and I want to put them into those companies.
Right.
At some point,
This has got to clash, right?
At some point, it's got to come together. You can't work this hard for this long and things not to come together. I think our big challenge right now is we just have a little bit of a valuation.
There's the rub, because the economy is so in flux. Those valuations are all over the place right now.
And so I might have a buyer here, a seller here, and at what point because once the buyer and seller come together, it's over, right? But I would tell you the want is there from everywhere.
That's good to hear. That's great to hear, actually. So that it's really just saying, hey, how can we get this short-term volatility and VUCA, if you will, start to settle a bit? Hopefully it does, and that's going to open up those lanes, right? So that could be.
But we all want that money flowing, right? The second that the money flows, it's all good, right? We're going to have new offices set up. We're going to have, the paper rich are going to go into being really rich.
Yeah, that's innovation too. More new things are going to come out of that, right?
Yeah, like, private foundations are going to win. Nonprofits are going to win, right? Like all of it. But we just need the movement in the ecosystem.
So, I mean, I love this, and I'm so appreciative of you taking time to come on and talk about this. This is a great conversation. I love talking about the magic of the Valley too, and it's good to dispel for those who aren't there. They can understand how it works. It is a pretty special place. But so, why don't we? What's your best advice here for a tech entrepreneur who's about to experience life-changing liquidity, or maybe it's the one coming later in the year once the IPO markets, like we were talking about, start to open up more? What's your best advice for them to prepare now for?
Yeah, I would say build your best team now. Yeah. It doesn't even matter what's coming. Build your best team now. Find the right people for you, right at the right stage. We talked about that earlier, but build your right team now, no matter what. And that could be for your financial baby, your company, and that could be for you on a personal level. But the sooner you do that, the better things will be. And no matter what happens, whether we go crazy or, God forbid, it gets a little bumpier, doesn't matter what happens. You build the right team, you're going to be ready for it.
Yeah, I love that because you need to be, we don't know where this is going. So have the right people around you to help you. So I love that. Dean, thank you for joining me today. This has been fantastic. I think we need a part 2 and let's bring on Chamath. Let's find that one out. But we're just throwing that out there. We're going to manifest this.
I love it. I love it. Chamath, we're calling. Come on.
Come on, pick up the phone, Chamath. We need you on Visions and Voices. Let's go. Awesome.
Exactly.
Well, Dean, thank you as always. We always have such a good time working together on this stuff. So thank you for joining me today. Yeah, onwards to the rest of the year. Maybe we can touch base later in the year and see how these things have worked out.
Love that.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, everybody out there. Thank you for listening today. I'll see you next week.